Hello and welcome to BBTV. I'm your host, Lucas Weekly, and today we're going to be reviewing a couple of radios from Hobby King, the Turnigy 9XR and the Orange T6. Now the reason why I haven't come out with this video any sooner was because I wanted to field test both of these radios, see if I had any problems, and then share with you my experiences. So now I think I'm ready. So the way this is going to work is we're going to check out the pros and cons of each one of these radios, and then I'll come back and explain my opinions on both of them. So let's start off with the pros and cons of the 9XR. So let's look at the pros of the 9XR. Now the trim tabs are really cool. Let me get a closer up view. So you're pushing on it, meaning that you're pushing on the button so you're not opposing it like the other ones, so they're really highly unlikely to break. We have 8 channels, so the radio is actually 8 channels, not 9 channels. It's 8 PWM and 9 PPM if you have an S-Bus system or something like that. One really neat feature is that it has both JR and Futaba training ports on it, so you can use your head tracker or easy UHF, and you don't have to make any cables for them. So another really cool feature about this radio are modules. Now I have this orange transmitter module, and just slide in, it snaps in place. Or you can do other ones, like I use this FreeSky one for my longer range vehicles, like my quadcopter and my FPV planes. I need more redundancy, and then I use the orange transmitting module for park flyers and other things like that. One of my favorite things about this radio is the batteries and how they handle how you supply power to the radio. So if we open up the battery bay, you can see I have a 2200 milliamp 3-cell. And the really cool feature about this is how you plug it in. You actually don't use a connector like the XT60 or Dean's or JR connectors for this. You use the balance port lead. This means that you can use the radio with any size 3-cell LiPo battery as long as it fits inside the case, or you can put it on the outside of the case if you wanted to. So if you're on the field and you run out of your receiver or transmitter pack, then you can just get one of your fly packs and put it in there. So Hobby King has been doing more open source stuff, and they are encouraging programmability and customization. So they added this programming header inside here, the 6 pins there, so you can give it any program that you want. And there are several on the market at this point. I still have the generic one that comes with the radio. I haven't upgraded it with anything, but they have an ER9X and a couple other ones. So another really cool feature is the backlit screen. So you have a blue backlit screen, and you also have this blue ready light up in the top. So the radio, after a certain amount of time, will actually warn you. It'll start beeping at you if you left it on. It's a really cool feature if you just don't happen to see the lights or the screen shuts off like that. So one of the things that this radio is really good with is programming. So you have a lot of different options of what you can do. And it's a little bit complicated at first, but once you learn all the settings, then you can do a lot of really cool stuff with your planes. They do advertise on their website this is very easy to program, and that is not true. It's very difficult, and you definitely need the manual to start off with. But once you figure it out, it's not that bad, and you can do a lot with it. Like one thing are these, I passed it, is mixes. And you can do servo slowing in here, you can do custom switches. This is actually a 16 channel radio if you count all the custom switches that you can do. And there's a bunch of other things that you can do with this radio. So this radio has 16 model memories, but it also has a limited storage space. So you can see I have 1275 megabytes left. If you fill that up, say if you have a bunch of really complicated 3D models on here, and they have a lot of mixes, then you actually won't have 16 model memories. You'll have like 10 or something, depending on how complicated they are. But if you're just doing something simple like park flyers or quadcopters or something like that, then you'll fill up all the models before you run out of space. Okay, so now that you've seen the pros, let's check out some of the cons. So the gimbals, even though they say that they are Japanese bearings, they do feel kind of cheap. Now, this is kind of funny saying this because this is a $50 transmitter, but what happens is when you're doing the throttle, it feels like it's getting stuck on the edges. And this is kind of annoying sometimes, especially when you get up to the top, it gets harder to push up. And some of the sticks are like that on the other side too, but generally it's pretty good. It's better than some of the other cheap radios that I've seen. There's no back handle on this. So most of the time transmitters will have back handles back here. No, the handle's up here. What that means is now you have this, what it's resting on. And as if you've seen, it's kind of hard to put down on the table. So when you're working on it, and then if you put it up here, yeah, it's gonna fall. Oh, did I break it? No. Yeah, it's a problem. And it does look like there are some mounting holes back here, or here and here. I don't know what those are for. Might be really dumb, but you probably can put some posts up there. I don't know, I might 3D print something if it really gets to a problem. So sometimes the keys stick. Let me show you this. And then you scroll down. If you push hard enough, it'll actually hit to the right, like that. So I didn't actually push that way, I pushed down. And this is really annoying when you're trying to program something, because you'll be going around and look, I'm changing everything. It's very annoying, and you have to really push lightly. And that's one of the major downfalls with this radio. You can set it up so that the potentiometer is how you scroll it, but I found that to be almost equally as annoying. So one of the other cons is it's pretty hard to use. There are a lot of features in it, and some of them are named with abbreviations, so it's kind of hard to understand what they are. You definitely need the manual, and it does take some time to learn. So this is probably not a good radio for beginners. So when you turn on the radio, if you have any switches flipped and then you turn it on, it'll give you this warning up in the front when the splash screen comes off. And it says all the switches that you have turned on, and let me just turn all these off. This can be really annoying, especially because like when I have my quadcopter, I fly it in attitude mode, meaning this switches all the way to the bottom. Well, it won't let me turn on the transmitter unless I do that. Now you can turn that off in the settings. I just haven't gotten around to it, but you can just easily get past this by hitting any button on the transmitter. Okay, let's move on to the pros and cons of the Orange T6. So now let's check out the Orange T6. Now the reason why I have my DX6i out here is to show you how this is just a clone of this. And that's really clear when I turn both of these radios on. So listen closely. I'll do the DX6i first and then the Orange T6. They're exactly the same, and even when I turn them off. So apart from that, some of the similarities do end. Like the screen is bigger on the Orange T6, and it is also backlit. So that's one of the pros. Go away. And let's focus on this. So yeah, the first pro is the backlit screen. It's easy to read. So the radio does feel really solid in your hand. It's almost the same quality as the case on the Spectrum DX6i. Another cool feature about this radio is how the batteries are set up. So you have the standard AA batteries that you can put in, but also there's a JST plug right here, and you can plug in a 2-cell to power this radio. So there are two ways that you can program this radio. Let me turn it on. You have the scrolly wheel that you can go through all the settings with, and then you can change them, of course. Then you also have these buttons on the side, and you have up and down, and then you have enter, and you can go in and change these. The list button doesn't work in these menus, but when you get out by entering, the list gets you back to the main screen, which is better than having to scroll all the way back and then push it. So because this radio is a clone of the DX6i, and I know they say on their website that it's their own design and all that stuff, it's not, it's a clone, that's it. That's a pro because it's very easy to program. All the settings here are pretty much exactly the same as in the DX6i. Everything's spelled out for you, so you don't have to do any guesswork. You barely even need the manual, only just for some basics things. And it's great. It's very simple to use, and it'd be great for beginner pilot. You have 10 model memories, just like the DX6i, and I like this way how they spelled it out. It's kind of cool. And then you go back, and then another thing that I really like about it is how you name your model. So let's select Model 2 for say. It downloads it. Even the same sound as the DX6i makes. And then you go down to the setup list, and you can do the model name. And I love how they do this. So if you want to choose your model's name, you go, yeah, you hit it again, and you know exactly what character you're going to, which is awesome. And the DX6i doesn't do that, and I wish it did. So this is something that's better than the DX6i. It's very cool. So another thing that this can do that the DX6i can't is that it warns you about your throttle position. So if you have it anywhere above idle, then it'll warn you, and then it won't let you go past until you put down the throttle, which is great. Okay, so let's look at some of the cons. The gimbals are really cheap. On the subject of plastic, everything's plastic on this except for the ends of these and the switches and the back handle. Even the place where you put your lanyard is completely made of plastic. Also, the trim tabs are very cheap and they feel kind of like the ones that the Spectrum came with, but they're even cheaper. So you know how I replaced all of mine in my Spectrum DX6i and later in previous episodes, the BBTV? Well, that's probably what's going to happen with this one. Another con is the training port. This is just kind of like a generic one. The radio that came with my old gas trainer had this, and I don't know if anyone uses this anymore. It'd be nice if they put like a JR or Futaba training port on it. Another con is that it is DSM-2 technology. Now, even though this is the same radio system that's in my Spectrum DX6i, it has been known to glitch. So you're not going to want to trust this radio with anything expensive, like an expensive model. And plus, you're not even going to use it for that. You'll probably get a more expensive radio if you have a more expensive plane. You'll use this for park flyers and scratch build. Okay, so now that you know the pros and cons, let's check out my opinions. Both of these radios feel really good in your hands. They're really robust, and even though they're really cheap, they're well made. And being cheap, that's another thing that's really good about them. Both of these radios are under $100. The Turnigy 9XR is $50 and the Orange T6 is $60. Now you do have to, for the Turnigy 9XR, get a module for the back like I've explained before, and you also have to get a battery to go into it. So overall, I really like both of these radios. The pros definitely overcome the cons, and they're both really great radios for their prices. So who are these radios for, beginners or experts? Well, the Orange T6 is most definitely a beginner transmitter because of how simple it is and easy to program, because it's a clone of the Spectrum DX6i. So it would be great for someone who's just starting off and thinks that they're going to want to expand in the future with their hobby. Now, I started off with a Spectrum DX6i, and if this was around when I was starting off, I would have most definitely got this instead, because it's a great radio, especially for beginners. So who is the 9XR for? Well, it's probably intermediate to expert pilots. Now this is just because it is very hard to program. It's more complicated, even though they say it's really easy. It's not. And also there's more features to it, which makes it harder to program and harder to learn. Also, you need to know what radio system you're already using. So you need a module, and then also batteries. The LiPos can be hard to charge if you don't know what you're doing. So I wouldn't recommend this for beginners. Some may say, yeah, you can learn all this stuff, but if I was just starting off, I would most definitely go with the Orange T6. And that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments below. If you like my videos, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'll see you guys next time. So thanks for watching.